Welcome into another edition of Ringside Review. I am Ethan Christodoulou, and as I have been recently joined alongside by Matt Colpitz here, we're talking Monday Night Raw, back to a normal time. Thank you. The mid-afternoon shows were definitely killing me as I'm at work trying to watch wrestling and produce shows at the same time. But today, we get to sit down and talk over what I think is kind of a Raw that I would describe as a kind of fill out the card show. We had a handful of matches get solidified. We obviously had the women's triple threat, Rey Mysterio versus Chad Gable, or El Grande Americano is what he's going by, I guess, right now, as he pretends to not be Chad Gable. Of course, we had another angle with Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman play out. A lot to get into, a lot to discuss. Jey Uso, Gunther build. I have some praises to heap on it after basically just kind of talking down on it for the last, what feels like month. So a lot of good stuff to discuss. But Matt, we're going to kick things off with that Women's World Heavyweight Championship match officially set in stone. Adam Pearce came out. Everyone made their way to the ring, got right to the point. We're signing this contract. We're doing a triple threat. I thought it was a little bit quick on his end, but I like the angle of just let's have the talent build this out here. Like, don't have Adam Pearce set the stage. Just basically, here's what we're doing. You all set the stage for us now. Michael Cole emphasizing, as Iyo Sky made her way to the ring, that she's kind of turned into an afterthought in this whole build. And I like that WWE's acknowledging that, because it's a concern that I have, that hearing them say that obviously means they're aware of that kind of being a piece of the puzzle here. And it almost kind of feels like maybe it's tipping their hand as to what could potentially happen with this match at WrestleMania. But obviously, Bianca and Rhea had a lot of beef in the exchange during the entire promo. We ultimately ended up with a little bit of an argument that turned into Iyo Sky being disrespected by Rhea Ripley as her and Bianca got the face-to-face going. She drops kicks Rhea into Bianca and walks away. How are we feeling now that we know that this is going to happen, and we knew that this was eventually going to be where we got to? It just was a matter of how did we get there? How do you feel about last night's, I guess, segment to set the table for what was a pretty much foregone conclusion? We were going to get this triple threat one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it, but I also just not surprised. As we discussed last week, we just felt like this kind of was a whole roller coaster of a storyline, and it's been exactly that. We had no idea how Rhea was going to get inserted to the match, or if she even was going to in the first place, and we kind of got it. I feel like that's my only complaint about this segment, is that, as you mentioned, it was kind of just like all right, it's a triple threat. Like, we didn't really get a reason other than these three superstars have just been feuding, beefing, and they just can't seem to settle the drama at hand. But yeah, I mean, Rhea's in the match. Bianca kind of just gave her point of view, where she was like, I earned it, but fine, like, whatever, I'm done. Like, let's just do this match. And Iyo was there as well, which I'm all team Iyo. I think I want her to win, and I'm still going to predict that she's walking out, because this very much feels like, as they're advertising, a Rhea versus Bianca feud that Iyo kind of just got inserted into, because she's viewed as such a, incredible superstar, incredible wrestler in the ring, but they maybe didn't really have much to do with her at WrestleMania otherwise. So they kind of put the strap on her, let her head into this feud, with the momentum. But where she's just constantly getting pushed to the side during these contract signings or whatnot, it definitely can make her appear weak, or just, as they have advertised, an afterthought, which I don't know how I feel about that. I don't think I'm too excited about our champion going into WrestleMania looking like kind of like, a bench warmer. But I'm excited for the match. We all knew it was going to be here. And yeah, I'm sticking to that prediction that Iyo is walking out still champ.
Yeah, I like that that's your prediction, because I feel like the open acknowledgement from WWE's end with Michael Cole's statement as she made her way to the ring, acknowledging the fact that she's kind of like third wheeling in her own championship match, which is crazy to say out loud, leads me to believe that they're aware of that kind of angle. And maybe that's something that could be setting us up for, while everyone's just so hyperfixated on Bianca and Rhea and how much this has turned into about them two and their beef and not Iyo, her coming away and stealing the spotlight and winning the triple threat as basically, like, you could take the angle of Bianca and Rhea kind of losing sight of what the actual goal is here. Two people that are fighting, and I actually have a good example of this. Two people fighting in a triple threat championship match at the grandest stage and are too worried about their own issues to see the bigger picture of, we have a championship title on the line. And this takes me back to WrestleMania 24. I was very young, 2008, John Cena, Triple H, Randy Orton. Triple H and John Cena, obviously storied history between the two of them. it seems like maybe in terms of just the storyline aspect, those two during that match, and I remember having the conversation, I forget how old I was in 2008, but I was maybe like 12 years old, having the conversation with my dad, who was great with this because he's letting me believe as we're talking about this as a young kid. And he's like, Triple H and John Cena aren't paying attention. Randy Orton's going to get away with the win in this match. They're too busy fighting with each other and they're not focusing on the task at hand here. So like, it takes me back to that where I'm like, maybe this is the angle they're going with. So I'm hoping Iyo pulls off that upset win where everyone's thinking, okay, it's Bianca, it's Rhea, it's Bianca, it's Rhea. No, actually, it was always Iyo Sky, and they set it up this way on purpose. The other thing we got to look at here, another big moment in the night, something that solidified a match that I was so against for a while. And I initially started on the side of positivity, and I was hating on the build. Jey Uso, Gunther. It felt like for a month, basically from Rumble to Elimination Chamber, they were not sure how to fill all that time between the two of them. And it felt like they were kind of just recycling the whole, like, Gunther's having matches, he's underestimating his opponents, Jey Uso's making runouts, or Gunther's running out on Jey. It just kind of felt like a mishmash of we're trying to kind of figure out where we take this story. Last week, I was very high on them adding Jimmy and having Gunther do the heel thing of basically painting himself in Jimmy's blood in front of Jey zip tied to the ropes. I thought that gave the juice that this rivalry desperately needed. To double down and get the impassioned speech we got from Jey, where he's outright telling Gunther at this point, you have done everything at this point, from me to beating my own family in front of me. You've disrespected me. You've disrespected my family, going all the way to his mother at that point in the discussions he's had with her following what happened to Jimmy. He's not afraid anymore. I love the angle that they're going to take because at this point, what could Gunther do that he has not already done? So I love that was the angle they took with this here. I went 2 weeks ago so out on this match to now following those last two segments between the two. I'm all in. I'm here for it. I have a reason to be invested now, and I've got to credit the booking on this one.
Yeah, you've absolutely taken the words right out of my mouth. I think last week with Jimmy being involved, and I know I've mentioned this point before, it pulled us in. I always think when you involve the family, you make it personal, that's when storylines start to thrive. So with that being said, I think this week was perfect execution for what the storyline needed. The ball was very much in Jey's court. Gunther didn't have to say a single word this week, and it drilled the story home. Jey had to step up. Jey had to come out, as the internet likes to call him, the yeet merchant. He had to come out of that identity and show something that he's always had, something that he really thrived in with the Bloodline story back in the day, was just showing that raw emotion. I always think of the Sami Zayn turning on Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble, and the first thing you hear is Jey just screaming out, why? Just having raw emotion. And he's always been so good in those moments to just bring out that emotion when it's needed to carry a storyline, to enhance a moment. He has been incredible at that. And that's something that people really do not give Jey Uso credit for. If you go back to any of those segments, Jey was probably the one that really, just tied it all together and enhanced it. So I think Jey absolutely stepped up, reminded us all that he is capable of doing that. And now that you have a blend of the yeet merchant, selling the merch, being the hype man, with also those emotional ties, I think Jey's winning. I know I keep just throwing out all these predictions here.
We'll have official predictions soon. Don't worry.
But I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the hype. I'm all on the Jey train. And even though, he's still going to get the hate, people are going to say he's got, only X amount of moves to his arsenal. I think the emotion and the storytelling is what is going to give him the upper hand in the story. And in the favor of WWE, the matchmakers, I think they're going to see just how he is kind of the whole total package when it comes to that storytelling aspect that is needed to be a WWE superstar.
I absolutely agree. It's funny. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Again, 2 weeks ago, I was so out on this. I spent over a month trashing the build. I was so out on it, asking every week to the point where I stopped talking about it because I'm like, I'm not going to give it attention if it's going nowhere at this point. There's other things going on I'm more invested in. And now here I am, a couple weeks out from WrestleMania, and I'm back to wanting to give it time, to give it the discussion, because again, what you said about Jey Uso in those emotional moments where you look back on the last, 3-4 years of the Bloodline era, how much he tied together some of those big moments. You're absolutely right. He is the one that brings that raw emotion. Jimmy he does a really good job with it as well. But this is why Jey is in the position that he's in, because clearly WWE has seen this from him in the past. And for them to pull this card now the way they did, clearly they needed some sort of juice to this, and somebody must have recognized that in the back. And we're like, all right, this has worked before. Let's attack it with this angle. Let's bring in Jimmy. Let's get the family element involved, because that's where Jey shines. And here we are, Jey shining just a couple of weeks out and making you believe.
Yes.
Third piece of discussion we have today. This is one that we don't need to give a ton of time to, but I want to get your opinion on this because I'm a little bit interested. AJ Styles versus Logan Paul. This is one of those matches that it's not going to get a ton of attention. It feels in some sense like a filler kind of type of match. It's not what I necessarily wanted for AJ Styles, but I'm starting to think that this could end up being a little bit of a sleeper. Obviously, Logan Paul, extremely impressive in the ring for somebody that I had zero expectations for when he first started getting involved in WWE. And his work as a heel, hated type of character. Regardless of how you feel about the guy, Logan Paul himself, he does a great job of just being the guy you want to hate so badly. That being said, I was hoping that these two would be involved in the Intercontinental title picture because I was really hoping for like a 6-man ladder match. I love that type of stuff at WrestleMania. I'm a very big fan of like the Money in the Bank days when it was at WrestleMania, and I miss that from Mania, and I love that they've kind of filled that hole every few years with a ladder match. So I thought that's where we were going, but this kind of split off into its own thing after Breakker and AJ Styles just kind of ignored each other after their little confrontation they had. So AJ Styles, Logan Paul, what are your thoughts on this match? Do you have any expectations for it? I think this could be a dark horse, really entertaining match along the lines of if you think WrestleMania 33, AJ Styles, coincidentally enough, versus Shane McMahon, a match that tore down the house to open the show that I don't think anyone had expectations for.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think at the end of the day, we have to look at the talent at hand. AJ Styles, one of the best, if not top 10, whatever it is, in terms of in-ring ability. When you think of a lot of dream matches, when people want to say, oh, Shawn Michaels, imagine him fighting Seth Rollins, AJ Styles. Styles is always in that conversation. He had an incredible run when he was the face, whatever the catchphrase was, the house that AJ Styles built on SmackDown when he was world champion back in like the 2016, 2017 era. And still to this day, he's been putting on really good matches. He fought LA Knight last year at Mania. He's had incredible programs with Cody Rhodes. I just always go back to thinking about Backlash France. That was an incredible highlight in AJ Styles' late career. And I'm just glad that he's going to get a singles match on WrestleMania 41. It's very deserved at this point in his career. He should not be missing a WrestleMania or an important event. And you know an AJ Styles match will always be a banger. Now looking across the ring at Logan Paul. You once again took the words out of my mouth that you love to hate him, and typically celebrities in WWE just do not do well. But I feel like that's actually been changing. I feel like Bad Bunny has, you know, when you look back at Backlash Puerto Rico, he put on a banger with Damian Priest. Logan Paul is absolutely kind of shifting what it means to be a celebrity in WWE. This year, he says he wants to take it more seriously, really dedicate himself to it. And even though he's still more on the kind of part-time schedule, showing up more than John Cena, but he definitely is still, showing more dedication than a typical celebrity would. And you just got to give it to him. He's incredible in the ring. No matter how much you want to hate him, he's going to do a move. He just did his new move, the pulverizer or whatever he's calling it, on Styles during their Raw promo the other night, and it looked damn good. That looked like a damn good move. Mm-hmm. So I really don't have much expectations or excitement for this match, but I do think it's going to be, like you said, a dark horse and a damn good contender for match of the year, or match of the night, I should say.
Oh, match of the year?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That's a little much, but it could be a match of the night or even match of the Mania entire program, just because, it's two guys that are just really damn good in the ring.
Yeah, I think in terms of wrestling, this is one that I don't think will disappoint. And again, it's one of those matches that I wasn't looking for, and I'm even still not like 1,000% sold on. Like, there's other things I would have liked to see both of these guys doing, mainly that dream 6-man ladder match I was hoping we got that is now just a fatal 4-way for the IC title. But for me, it's one of those things where the in-ring work should be really good. AJ Styles could literally wrestle a broomstick if you needed him to and make the match work. So the way I see it, again, dark horse to be really entertaining one that, like you said, no expectations, no necessarily desire for it or anything like that, but one that I am kind of just intrigued to see how it goes, because I don't expect it to be disappointing, and I'm sure I'll be entertained by it. Last but certainly not least, another wrinkle to the Paul Heyman saga, who a lot of people on the internet are kind of joking now that he is basically carrying this entire triple threat on his back with his involvement. And I think that's a kind of a fair statement to make. Paul Heyman, after having his cranium spared by Seth Rollins, choosing not to stomp him after taking out CM Punk after what was an electric promo where Rollins basically, he took the angle of, I'm the guy that has been right about everything. Nobody's been listening to me. Here's me now doing the same thing to Paul Heyman, pointing out the flaws in both CM Punk's friendship with him and his relationship with Roman Reigns, and them not being there for him in some of his biggest times of need. And now, because Seth didn't take him out, chose not to, even though he literally said to him, I could do it right now. We could put this all to an end. You look like this is getting to you. It's wearing on you type deal. He chooses not to, takes the mic, looks Paul in the eyes and tells him, now you owe me a favor. At this point, I also want to toot my own horn here for a second. I called CM Punk asking Heyman to be in his corner. Obviously not a very crazy call, but definitely one that I've been pounding the table for a while as I've watched some wacky favor predictions go around the internet over the last few weeks, but it was the obvious that was going to happen. This is where we start to look at that whole Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman team-up angle that we're getting here. I don't know if this is just them maybe nodding to the people who brought that up on the internet and adding this little wrinkle where it could ultimately just be Seth like asking him to give him a chair or something as simple as that in the match. Like maybe it won't be that elaborate, but the possibility now of Paul Heyman turning on both CM Punk and Roman Reigns after having Seth Rollins lay out the failures of his best friend and tribal chief not being there for him in some of his greatest times of need is more and more real and a legitimate possibility now that WWE has even kind of acknowledged it with this favor now being in play. Do you foresee the turn, or is this going to be something simple like just a moment in the match where Seth's going to just ask for Paul Heyman's help? Or do we end night one, Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman, in a pairing that I didn't know I wanted until it's been dangled in front of me now the last couple of weeks?
Yes, I mean, as we discussed about this match not too long ago, I was feeling this was going to be kind of where we're at and where we're headed for this main event with Seth Rollins becoming a Paul Heyman guy, and I am here for it. The reason being that you look at Roman Reigns, you know he's going to be on a part-time schedule now. He's done it all. He had the longest world title reign. There's not really much more for him to do other than just continue to be Roman Reigns. He's going to show up. He's going to sell tickets. He can go into a feud with whoever, and he's going to be an attraction. Doesn't necessarily need the title. You look at CM Punk. He's also just, a legend at this point in his career. He's perfectly fine on his own. Does not need Paul Heyman. And honestly, when he's kind of with Paul Heyman, you kind of, at least for me, I get that vibe of like, it's kind of past, Paul Heyman was an incredible manager with CM Punk during Punk's own individual incredible title reign with the spinner belt back in the day. But it just feels like he doesn't really need Paul now, Like that just feels very much like it would be all be for the nostalgia.
Yes.
You look at Seth Rollins. I think Seth is the only one in this picture where, yes, he's one of WWE's top guys. Yes, he also is becoming a legend in his own right, but he's growing a little stale with his current shtick, the outfits and whatnot. He's kind of just floating around. I think Seth's best work has been when he's a heel and the authority kind of figure. He's got someone in his corner. He's cutting corners. He's being the architect. And I think becoming a Paul Heyman guy, like you said, is something that we didn't necessarily know we needed or wanted, but now we do. I feel like it's the most logical outcome to this triple threat. Punk will be fine with a loss. Roman will surely be fine with a loss. I feel like Rollins has just lost too many big matches up to this point. You almost forget that he was the world champion going into WrestleMania 40 last year because he's just been losing so much. So I think it's needed. I think Rollins needs the victory. Rollins needs Heyman in his corner. after the show and possibly even during it. Maybe we have a big twist and turn. But yeah, I did see this coming because it just felt a little lackluster for there to be a triple threat. Rollins is involved when all along, as we alluded to earlier with the women's triple threat, how Iyo's kind of an afterthought and is going to take advantage of two Rhea and Bianca kind of feuding. That's what it feels like for Seth. It's very much Punk and Roman feuding over Paul Heyman. They want him in their corner. Rollins is going to come in while they're distracted and go for the goal, get the victory, leave with Paul Heyman, and I feel like it would be a little poetic, honestly.
Listen, again, it's something I didn't know I wanted till it was dangled in front of me. I agree with you on the bit of staleness that Seth Rollins is kind of dealing with. I loved him as the architect. I loved him in the Authority. That was what really hooked me on Seth Rollins as a superstar. And I've just not been a big fan of the flashy, holier-than-thou thing that he's kind of had going on for the last handful of years now at this point. Like the Monday Night Messiah into what he turned into now, Seth freaking Rollins and all that. It just was a little too cheesy for me. He thrives in a full-blown heel, I will do whatever it takes to win type role. And I'm excited to see a pseudo version of that. It obviously won't be Architect Rollins, but it'll be Rollins now with Heyman on the mic. And to your point of Punk not needing Heyman as well, I think that's clogging up too much ability on a microphone between the two of them, where Heyman is served better elsewhere. And now Rollins can be that guy who benefits from having a Paul Heyman in his corner. So I'm all in on it. I totally agree. I'm looking forward to WrestleMania. We're going to do predictions next week, so we can put your predictions you keep throwing out in stone and in writing. I'm looking forward to it. We're less than 2 weeks away from WrestleMania, but that'll do it for another edition of Ringside Review. Matt, thank you again, as always, for joining me. We'll see you all next week for another Ringside Review.